A rebellion on Russia. That's what people across the world are saying this week as Russian billionaire Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was a strong ally of President Putin, was armed, getting ready to attack Russia's military leadership. Hello and welcome to Capital Review. I'm Tasmin Mahfuz, and even though the rebellion ended as quickly as it started, experts are saying that this could have a lasting impact on President Vladimir Putin's power. Now joining us live from Kyiv, Ukraine is Jason J. Smart, a correspondent to the Kyiv Post. Jason, welcome back to Cap Review. Great to see you. So talk about this latest rebellion. The mercenaries with the Wagner group, they were heading to Moscow with 5,000 fighters and then they backed off. Why?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting past week and a half or so. So Prigozhin had about 5,000 troops, maybe up to 8,000, was headed up to Rostov, then from there to Moscow. Along the way, he was not stopped by Russian soldiers. He was not stopped by the police. He was not stopped by the Russian public. So these are all very bad signs for Putin. Internally, his most significant feature, his security state, they were not able to control the Wagner group as they marched through Russia. Why Prigozhin turned around, though, is a good question. A lot of the experts tend to believe that it was not so simple as simply that his family was threatened or something like that, though that probably contributed to it, but rather that he was promised a bigger payoff if he just waited a little bit longer. And what that payoff is, we're not sure, but it does appear that there is some sort of a deal in the works, and there is certainly something cooking in Moscow.
So how was Commander Yevgeny Prigozhin able to even get away with it in such a public way for the entire world to see?
So that was probably the most shocking part of this. Vladimir Putin is known for being a strong man. At least he likes to project that image. And he had quite the opposite situation. He was brought really to the brink by Prigozhin, and this could have been the end of his government. But at the very last moment, the president of Belarus, Lukashenko, was able to negotiate a peace that had Wagner's leader Prigozhin decide to pull back his troops. Why Putin went along with this? It's probably because Putin realized he was not able to quell the rebellion. If Prigozhin had marched on Moscow, there is the real chance that he could have sacked the government. I mean, if Russian troops had taken the side of Prigozhin against the Russian government, Putin could have ended up like Gaddafi or any other dictator.
Yeah, so how do you think Putin is feeling about this? I mean, you brought this up. We know he cares about his image. Is his ego bruised, and does it impact how he's perceived?
I think it's not just bruised. At this point, I think he's afraid for his life. There's news that came out that he is now in the security meetings with his topmost senior staff that are running the intelligence services and the military. He brings his armed bodyguards with him. He is truly now in a very bad situation, and he realizes this is how empires collapse, and he could be really not too far away from seeing his last days.
Okay, so following that, where does Russia then go from here? Will we ever see an end of this war, or will it keep branching out?
Well, the war will end. How it will end is always the question. And I think increasingly there's a high probability that the war will come to an end because of Russian internal instability, whether that's military, whether that's going to be economic, or it's going to be political, or a coup, for instance, would be political. These things could happen. And I think it's well within the realm of reason. I mean, the economy of Russia is very weak. The ruble today lost a significant amount of value. A lot is going wrong for the Putin regime, and their ability to wage war in Ukraine is becoming increasingly limited.
All right, Jason J. Smart with the Kyiv Post. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from Ukraine. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.